I appreciate Advent almost as much as I appreciate Lent. Advent is another time of waiting for a miracle, a particular one, in fact. One of the aspects I appreciate about Advent is that in the darkness of the world, both figuratively and literally, God gives humans extraordinary gifts. For instance, Mary. She was just living her life of trying to make it day by day. Life was hard. The Romans were making it almost impossible to get by if you were a Jew. There was not enough food, land, or employment for her kin. The different factions in her own faith were demeaning to other Jews. She was betrothed to a good man, yes. So for that, she was grateful. All she had on her mind was to be married, to have babies, and of course, prayer and waiting for the Messiah to come. For she was a believer. But what else could she do, really? As a woman from a small village, Mary was worthless without a husband, and even marriage alone would not be good enough to elevate her status. She needed to produce children. And then finally, she would be deemed accepted in her culture and in her village. Still, she would have to listen and obey her husband in ways that we could not abide in today's world. If she was barren, she would at the very least be ostracized and possibly stoned, and maybe even left to die if one of the stones hit her just right. What a life. Yet this was her life, and it was Elizabeth's life, and it was the life of so many other women at that time. I'm not up here telling you that there were no good men. I am merely speaking on Mary and Elizabeth's reality at the time when Gabriel appeared in their lives. Both knew they were lowly women, and yet both listened and took what Gabriel said and they put it in their hearts. Their faith opened their hearts to receive the miraculous opportunities that God was offering. And then they made an active choice to live into the gifts that they were given. The gift for Mary was not easy. But have you ever noticed that God's gifts are not easy? God doesn't guarantee easy. But I'm asking myself, just how is Mary to do this? There were no specific directions on how to proceed. What was she supposed to do? So maybe she told her mother first to see if her mother accepted her, and then maybe she had the courage to talk to Joseph. What would they say? What would happen as she started to blossom with child? Her village would never believe about Gabriel. Well, we don't know how Mary told her mother, or we don't really know how Mary told Joseph. What we do know is that she went to see Elizabeth. She went alone, unaccompanied, out of fear that if anybody knew, they would tell on her. She walked for several days, having to carry her food and drink on her. She couldn't let anyone see her unaccompanied, as actually traveling unaccompanied for a woman was also forbidden in that era. Perhaps she's praying all the way that Elizabeth would understand her. After all, Gabriel did mention Elizabeth when he first told her the good news. Maybe she was praying that she made it to the hilly area of Judea in one piece, as the way was dangerous and rocky and steep. How frightening this must have been for Mary as a young female. Finally, she shows up at Elizabeth's home. She speaks, and Elizabeth feels her unborn child responding to Mary. The child of my womb leaps for joy. Elizabeth is living in her own messy situation. She's elderly, beyond childbearing years, and she's 6 months with child. At long last. What would the townspeople think of this? And her husband can't help her, as he's been muted due to his sarcastic response to Gabriel's initial visit. She was on her own as well. Her shame is taken away with her pregnancy, and she is quick to glorify God and accept the gift that she's been given. Her unborn child hears Mary and knows that Mary carries the Messiah within her. Mary carries love within her. Elizabeth, I am thinking, embraces Mary, soothes her fear and trepidation, affirming her that God is indeed with her and within her. Their meeting results in a poetic outpouring of praise to and for God. Separately and together, these two lowly women, one elderly, one very young, open their hearts to the unexpected divine presence and journeyed through the messiness of it all without the support of any. They were just two women, at that time likened to pieces of property. Yet Luke chose to give these lowly women this deeply theological vignette to proclaim to the world. What was Luke trying to tell us with this gesture? Perhaps it was that he wanted to ensure that women were represented, included, and important, and that God wanted to show us that there is no limit to the creativeness of God's love and God's vision for the world. Mary and Elizabeth's lives were difficult, messy, like ours often are. Difficult, messy, scary. Their world was, well, the way the world is today. Difficult, sometimes scary, messy. Today, isn't today a fine day to believe in the Messiah? What a great day to say with faith, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God,